modern society is getting harder and harder and harder to deal with, man.
That as well, but
It says you're still hosting Sunichu.
give it a few seconds to get in, otherwise I'll unhost it.
Okay.
I can do that as a... Oh, nope, I cannot. That is something that Jamie will need to do then. Jamie, in the chat, you'll need to type /unhost, and then it should stop hosting sooner.
I think he went to go get himself coffee.
I do have a feeling he might have went and gotten himself some coffee. Let me reload once more. Let's see what happens.
There we go.
Yes, no, yes. Okay, there we go. We are live, not live. It still shows offline for me for some reason. Hello.
And they can listen to us. But
yes, because that is most obviously what they want to do. They want to listen to us ramble about nothing. So for some weird reason, it still shows offline for me, but I guess it will update sometime soon.
It's just barely. It's there. It is now. It's gone for me.
So, there we go. We are live.
Taking a little bit.
Sometimes it might just need a little bit to get going. But once we're here, it's fine.
Anyway, I was gonna say that what we were joking about is so I don't know how much you know about like American TV shows, but there's a show. It's called The Price is Right. It's a.
I know that show.
Anyway, well, apparently this this lady in a wheelchair won, and so when they removed the curtain, she won herself this like $8,000 treadmill. and the look on her face is she's like, really? Are you kidding me? You know? And
here's the perfect show of how stupid life can be. I hope you enjoy your totally useless treasure that you've spent way too much money to attain.
Right.
Good luck.
Well, and you can see the host's face like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no.
Everyone, no, wrong trade, no, wrong door. Please choose another one. No. Let me put this up here. Let me send a quick little Discord message to all of the 2 people that are live in my Discord channel. Twitch.tv/Jaime Buckley. Yes, I indeed can type. Verily so.
Well, that makes one of us.
Was this link right? Yes, the link was right. Not only was the price right, so was the link. Ah! I am greatest typer in all of land. I have keyboard of +2 magical typing.
A whole +2. Well done.
Yes. Oh yes, yes, the bow of dramatic death. It was a +2 bow of over dramatic death or something along those lines. It was great. I mean, when you ask hypotheticals of me while I'm in the middle of some GM prep, then the first thing that pops into mind is D&D stuff. I can't help that.
And it's great stuff to draw.
Yes, no. We wanted a magical weapon, and then magical weapon you have.
All right.
Five.
And we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Life is Like Fiction. And today we're doing a little bit of remote because, well, I'm technically retarded and I couldn't figure out how to have me and Evan both on camera and have our guest Zeyv here with us. So we decided to work through our Discord and use something that we knew how to use. And so we have Evan here and we have Zeyv. Welcome, guys. And he cuts out.
Obviously, I cut out. It's just
we weren't deserving of
it. I think this is going to be the only part that is a little rough because of the sound of everybody coming in. Let's see. I wonder if we can cut that out.
Everyone watching the Twitch stream has been in a Discord channel with multiple people talking. Like, everyone gets it.
Yeah.
There's always a slight delay, and from time to time, suddenly people are talking through each other. Then they notice that they're talking through each other, so they stop talking all at the same time, only to then start talking again at the same time because they think it's their turn to talk, only to then stop talking again because all of them are talking at the same time. Rinse, repeat, over and over and over.
I like this guy.
I'm just gonna sit here and watch.
I'm liked already.
Well, so
there's not much to watch. There's only you can only listen.
Well, but this is video, and this is going to go on Patreon. So this is something that we want to expand your reach too, Zeyv. So we're hoping by having fun today, we're going to post this. I know there's a certain period of time that this stays on Twitch, but then when it goes off Twitch, I take this, we upload it to YouTube, and it will be forever on our Patreon page. So people will be able to come back over and over, and in the show notes, I'll be able to put links to our various streams, and I want people to really get excited about RPGs and to hang out with the three of us. I would love that. So I'm hoping this is the beginning. We'll have enough fun today that we'll do this over and over and over again. That's my hope. So, but I think Evan, you said you're going to be the moderator today, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so Zeyv, you and I are going to have to bow to the guy we can't see. So he's got the questions.
Okay. I mean, I can see you though, Dad. So
yeah, you can both see me.
Some literal bowing.
Add a 10-second delay for me though, so that's something to keep in mind.
Anyway,
that would be the worst fight ever, even if it's a debate. It's like, fight!
I will always be ahead.
10 seconds later, dodge.
Yeah, that's the thing. If I punch, you guys will know it's coming and you can avoid it before it hits the stream. So it's like, well, that's not fair.
If we punch you through the future. That's how fast we punch. We go past the time-space barrier.
But what's great is that I can cut out the future and the time-space barrier by hitting a mute button.
Terrible. Just terrible.
So there is a balance here.
You see what we've done? We're talking about punching,
and they're already there. Wolfie's already punching Rich.
We're terrible.
I'm a bad example. I know it. I'll hold my mouth.
Oh, I love it. I
do believe we should move on to some pleasant discourse.
Anyway, so I wanted to start off by talking about.
Ev, before we do this, thanks, Rich, for subscribing.
So apparently, in a fight between Rich and Wolfie, well, we have a subscriber in Rich, so now we need to back him up.
Well, I was gonna say though, Evan, before we start, since we were having a struggle with the sound, I want to make sure that everybody in chat can hear us too. So I know that there's a delay, but can everyone hear me okay? Can everyone hear Zeyv? Why don't you talk?
The only time I say
Obviously, especially for that reason.
Just want to make sure that they could hear all three of us. Yes, yes, and yes. Okay, well, that's from Sarah. I don't know if Wolfie's going to say anything because she's punching everybody. So,
I mean, the first rules of Fight Club is never to talk about Fight Club, so she probably shouldn't say anything.
Oh my goodness! All right, Evan, you're in charge.
So I wanted to start off by asking you guys what got you into role playing in the first place. I figure if we'll start with we'll start with my dad, and then we'll go to Zeyv, to tell everyone like what got you interested. Maybe your first experience playing, your first group.
Okay, well, mine's kind of a silly story. I remember the actual person that got me started, and I was just before my 8th birthday. I was 7 years old when I started role playing, and it was with Dungeons and Dragons. I'd never heard of it before, and the guy, I think he was 11 or 12, and it was one of my neighbors, Brian Hoops, and really nice kid. He was kind of left. His mom was not all there. Very, very sweet, kind woman. And his dad traveled the world. And I can't remember who he worked for, but it was his job to go and to find artifacts. He wasn't like an archaeologist or anything like that, but he would travel the world. And it was really funny because I remember going to his house because Brian comes and says, hey, you got to come over. He says, you'll never believe what my dad brought home from his last trip. I said, what? He says, it's a finger monkey. I said, like a monkey? And he says, yeah, a monkey. And my parents really liked Brian. He was a really, really nice kid, but he didn't have a whole lot of friends. So we come over to his house, and his house was like a freaking museum. But the one thing that he liked to play is he said that there was this game that he enjoyed, that he would play with his cousins, and it was called Dungeons and Dragons. And me and my brother Christian went over once. We played. Christian wasn't wasn't really interested, and I was just immediately I was dumbfounded. I thought it was just awesome. I could be a wizard. I could be, a thief. It was so cool because I could be anything. I could be anything. Oh, crap. It could be anything that I wanted to be, right? So, and I love the whole monsters and things. And since I'd also been drawing since I was 2, it was like while we'd play, I was always sketching our characters and stuff like that. And so that's how I started. And it was Dungeons and Dragons was my first experience. The guy was Brian Hoops. I lived there till I was 11, I think. Then we moved away. And by that time, on my 12th birthday, my parents started buying me some books. I thought this was awesome. I just went from there.
Awesome. Well, so what about you?
Well, I think mine has had sort of 3 stages. It was about 5 years ago or something, I think 6 years ago, maybe even. Obviously, I am not as enriched with the amount of years that my life has had so far as someone else on this stream, so I can't go back to.
Wait,
I don't know,
are you saying I'm old?
No, I'm saying I'm young.
It's gonna be one of those conversations. I'm so for this. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, it was a few. I don't even know anymore if that was before or after I had a relationship with a certain woman, but that certain woman brought some friends over from a place a bit further away from us that actually played Dungeons and Dragons at some point. So they came by, ran like 1 or 2 games, and I was there mostly watching because I was always working until late in the evening, and then I was there for the last 1 or 2 hours or something. So that was my first introduction into that whole scene. So that was a great introduction. About a year later, I managed to finally get into a group which I basically stayed in for about a year, which had a horrible gem, but I caught the bug. I never started with D&D. I started with Pathfinder.
Oh,
for those who don't know, Pathfinder being D&D 3.5 expanded upon and made more complicated. And you can say you catch the bug when you grasp the essence of Pathfinder within a week. Those who know the game know how substantial that statement is. So I played that for about a year as a player, and then my great foray into GMing started when I was always a bit interested in it because I'm a bit of a lunatic that likes to do voices and talks with himself all the time, so that's a great start for that. But a friend of mine had his birthday, so a day before his birthday, he sent me a message and said, "Hey, would you like to run a game for my birthday?" Which I did, and then 2 years later, we were still playing that. Basically.
Same game or same campaign?
That was the same campaign.
Oh my goodness.
That was a campaign that I've run for 2 years in Pathfinder. It taught me that I would never want to run a campaign in Pathfinder again, because it's
Oh wow.
Way too much stuff you need to think about.
Makes sense.
But since then, I've been around, played some different types of games, learned a lot, also played a lot online, etc., etc. Recently, yesterday, had a game with Wolfie. She is now in my latest D&D campaign that I run every Monday evening. Yeah, still going strong. I have only played it for like 4.5, maybe 5 years, but it feels like I've done it my entire life already. So that's the thing.
Okay. Okay, sounds
Rich,
good.
you're not important.
Well, I like that he brought up that he didn't start with D&D. And see, me, I had an experience where I completely got out of D&D, and I haven't really played D&D since that time, which I was 17, and I'm almost 50 now. So I got out of it because of a specific experience. I was having fun and had good GMs. I had good players, and I remember we moved from the mountains from the Sierras down to Sacramento, and I met this guy at work. Really nice guy. We really hit it off. And it was in California, and we would do graveyard. We would clean the businesses. So we're mopping floors, and we're talking about D&D. We're talking about things that we would do when we GM, and it was a lot of fun. He says, "Hey, I do a game on Friday nights." He goes, "We have a spot open. Would you like to come over?" And I said, "Sure." So my mom was dropping me off, and we roll up to this apartment, and all the lights are off in this apartment, which was odd. And I looked at my mom and I said, I just have would you just stay here, Mom, just for a minute? She goes, okay. And I says, I don't know why. I just got a feeling. Would you just wait? And she says, okay. So she leaves the car running, and I grab my books and character sheet and stuff, and I go upstairs and I knock on the apartment door of this guy. This guy is 21, 22. And the door slowly opens. And there is nothing but candlelight in there, all the candles in skulls in a circle with designs drawn on the ground, everyone in robes. There's like a bloody something or that looks bloody in the middle of the room. They've all got their game, their character sheets and the books and stuff to the side, and he's in blood red robes and full makeup on, and he looks up. And he just flips the hood back and like total switch goes, "Oh, hey, Jamie, so glad you're here." And it took everything that I had to not let my jaw drop to the ground. And I went, "Dude, I feel so bad." I says, "But I forgot." I says, "I've got some family plans that I can't blow off. It's my family." And I felt so bad. I had to at least stop by and tell you that I wasn't going to be able to make it, because I thought that would be rude for me not to show up. And he goes, "Oh, man, that's really considerate of you." "Well, thank you. Well, if you ever get another chance, you can come back, we can play." And nobody in the room moved. And it was so freaking creepy. I was like, yeah, I'm never going to do that again. Anyway, I quit my job like a week later, so I never had to run into him again. But I was like, I'm not going to do that. So that was a little extreme of people that were...
on the odd side.
Oh.
That is where the satanic panic came from.
Yeah. And there was such a bad feeling there in that room. I was just, yeah. So anyway, so I got in the car and went home, and I don't know, we watched a movie or something. I'm not sure, but it's just, Anyway, so I switched from, at that moment, that experience, I switched from Dungeons and Dragons over to hero games.
If we go back to that for a real quick tidbit, because there is a certain lesson in that's really important for a lot of people that haven't played this a lot yet, and that is look for the people that you play with.
Oh, yeah.
Because one of the things is, yes, you'll be having fun with each other. You're playing a game, and whatever game it will be that either D&D, or be that Heroes, or be that Burning Wheel, whatever comes up for you. But this role-playing shines when you can be with a group of friends that you can let yourself go with and actually just shove yourself in that character and be that for some time. But for that, you need to trust those around you, and they need to be good friends of yours. And they can become good friends over the course of play.
Yeah.
But always try and get yourself in a comfortable situation. And maybe all that they did was entirely just fun and play, and that was how they like to play, and that was not how you like to play, and that's entirely fine.
Yep.
But that's just one of those things. You need to find those comfortable spaces. So for everyone who might be looking for a group to play with, or want to set something up themselves, always try and set up an open space, but keep it also so that everybody can get in, but also always try and keep it safe for everyone inside. You
Totally
don't
agree.
want anyone ever to actually get a bit too much in character and maybe, or just enough in character and maybe actually start feeling emotional and then just getting dropped like a brick.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is that's not good. Don't do that. Take care of each other.
Yeah, and there's a point to back you, Zev, but is a more mild, because I completely get what you mean. But even on the just the personality side, not even getting into character, but the personality side, because like Evan and I have done gaming teams where there's one or two people that no matter what you do, even though everyone else in the room loves the puzzles, they work well together, they're thinking things through, they strategize with each other, they include everyone, and then you get somebody that we get a couple people that it's like, oh look, there's a little a peasant woman with her child, and they're like, shoot her, or it's just mindless violence just for mindless violence sake and not a point to anything. It's just always bashing things to see if we've had people like that.
Yes. I think the big thing is that, like you said, finding a group that you're comfortable with. I think because there are two sides to that. One of the things you have to realize is that when you're playing a game and you're playing an RPG and you're doing your best to enjoy yourself, there's a little bit of vulnerability, because at least in my experience with a lot of the individuals that I played with, a lot of them, when they first started, they felt kind of stupid, kind of like, well, this is in my imagination, it's kind of nerdy, this is kind of this, and so they had some hesitations in that, and that kind of ruined it for them. On the other hand, then you get these guys, I can do anything, I'm just going to attack, and I'm going to bloody up everything that I see in the game, or I'm going to, kind of like you said, the mindless violence that they become uncomfortable to play with because nothing ever gets done. And just as bad as the violence is, the guy that's like, oh, that's you introduce an NPC and they're like, I would like to seduce them, and every single time you try to throw something at them, and that's their snap answer,
right.
It's annoying, and it kind of ruins the flow of the game.
Yeah.
Which I was gonna say,
some people, yeah. Some people call them murder hobos.
Oh,
that's exactly. No, I joke about it because if you've got a character, an NPC, let's say he walks outside of a building, and it's cold, so he wraps his coat around him, and the wind's blowing, so he puts his hood on. He's huddled against the side of the building, and he's just trying to stay warm. And all of a sudden, this group of adventurers comes by, and they're whispering, "Oh, he's got a hood on. He must be evil. Oh, he's turning away from us towards the door. He must be planning an attack." So they beat the crap out of him about this guy. This guy that's just trying to stay warm. And I'm like,
there's a way to describe that. That's called running an evil campaign.
I don't know. That was kind of a fair kidney shot there.
I entirely get what you're talking about, and this is one of the reasons why it's so important to communicate with all of your players what they want out of a game.
Yeah.
That 2-year campaign that I run in Pathfinder, I had one person in there, and she was basically just there to do the combat. That's all she was interested in. Okay. But out of the 6 players that were there, 4 of them were way more interested in being a bit more personal with stuff, going through morality, trying to explore the different ways how you can solve stuff. And then you have 2 people that basically just are twiddling with their thumbs until their turn to do something comes about. That's why it's so important to grasp beforehand what people expect from a game, because there are also players that just punch the shit out of everything because that is all they know how to do.
Yeah,
they think it's just a combat game, and that's why it's sometimes important to just talk with them, because they might just not know.
I agree. I think that's a great approach, and talking to them about what they expect to get out of the game. See, I had a problem running a game that the answer to everything was torture them for information. So I couldn't throw an NPC at them or give them these puzzles, because they would just go, they're like, well, just randomly grabbing anybody they could. They're like, well, I just want to torture them until I get the information I need. There's no use trying to figure it out or something else. And I could deny it, but then they'd get bored, then they wouldn't play, and I think talking to them, and they're like, no, we like puzzles, but most of our puzzles we think should be able to be solved by torturing someone for information,
and yeah, but that's where the point. What I would make is then either talk with them and be like, hey guys, I want you to be humans, not demons. So how about we act like we are humans? Or start turning it into a demon campaign, because that can be great fun as well.
See,
you have to be scouted out by a bunch of demons that are like, oh, you're doing great. You're doing a great job torturing all these mortal fools. Come to us towards the promised land where you can torture every day. Or something along those lines.
But that's one of the reasons why I got into Villains and Vigilantes, because the number one rule in Villains and Vigilantes is you cannot be a villain. You have to be a hero. And so even though it didn't completely, douse everything out, the evil intents, but it mitigated a large portion of that. And so it helped me to find the right kind of individuals to have gaming sessions with, which helped. And we expanded, and just like with any RPG, that you could adjust the rules according to tastes and needs and imagination and capability of your groups. But I liked Villains and Vigilantes because I could show people, look, you can still do these amazing things. There still is, look, we could still beat the snot out of the bad guy and have poetic justice and still put him in jail instead of ending his life. You know what I mean? So it was nice developing that ability with people. And then as I became a parent, Evan's born, he's getting older, I'm showing him the games. Then I started expanding my gaming again, once I was married and had kids. So
yeah. See, I think that I don't know. I don't like, so on a personal note, I don't like running evil campaigns. Like, I don't play bad guys ever in any game for any reason ever. Like, I just don't enjoy it.
Yeah, just so you know, if there's any horde listening, I would kill you as soon as I saw you. So it's just things like that. Yeah, I never play horde. Here's the thing. My little brother Jordan and his wife play horde. And when we would get on at the same time, I would literally send him a text on the phone and say, I know you're on. You're going to die before you log out. And then I would hunt him down. That's how extreme I got it. That's right, Wolfie, for the Alliance. So, anyway.
Well, a thing that Rich brought up, where, because I do entirely, I love it when I can give players the freedom to do whatever they want, but there's a good and a bad way of running evil/bad guys.
Yeah.
Because especially, there's a whole different discussion here about how the alignment system in D&D works. If you want to focus on that, that's an entirely different bag of tricks. But there are basically, not looking at it being chaotic or lawful or whatever, there's two ways of running evil people in a campaign. There's the actual fun one, and there's the horrible, you're trying to be a dick, get out of my campaign one. Basically. Because I know people that, for example, they are the sweetest people that I know in real life, but they use stuff like D&D to be their outing for any frustration they might have or whatever, and like to play conniving little evil bastards that play with a group well, but you can find them doing little things in the background. For example, they saved a corrupted young peasant woman. They're still on the way through to a way further thing somewhere in the wilderness, so they can't bring her back. But they managed to get her somewhere to at least a safer place. And just before they leave, once the rest of them are already moving, that evil person says, I'll be right back, don't worry. And basically just off-screens murders that person for the god of chaos or whatever is going on. But those kinds of way of playing is evil in a way that isn't detracting from the actual sense of play. There is, for the players at the table, they still have fun doing whatever they want, and they don't have a guy that's like, I am evil, I kill this. I'm evil, I loot this. Or whatever else worse things go on. Because at the end of the day, like I said, you need to create a safe space, and if you're constantly afraid that someone else does something that will detract from your fun, it's not a safe space anymore.
Yeah.
And that can be whatever. That can be boundaries that get crossed because the evil character would do something that an evil person might do, but it's still not something nice to bring up on the table, which could be whatever. That could be torture, that could be rape, that could go way into the distance. or it does something that constantly goes against the party. I have a person in a lot of my campaigns that likes to hoard treasure. I think it's kind of annoying. We'll get out of it. The problem is, it always happens until he's about level 5, and then it's like, okay, at level 5, I'm suddenly friends with my party, so now I share. It's like, sure, it's fine.
You know what, too, is I like once in a while when you come across, and you don't always get to pick this, but it's nice when it happens, and I'm talking from the standpoint of being a GM, it's nice when you end up finding someone who really starts getting the game or getting into it in such a manner that they become the bridge and the peacemaker when there's conflict. Have you ever had someone who walks, and it seems almost like it's natural to them, maybe they're like that in real life, but when there's conflict between maybe two of the party members and they step in, and it's not the, hey, calm down, whatever, but they strategically try to work, and you see them massaging and actually navigating the team into a better place where we as GMs can direct them better, or to give them, a better gameplay and more options, because that individual is opening everybody's minds to possibilities. Have you had people like that?
Well, I have had it the other way around.
We've all had it the other way around.
No. I've had a chaotic evil character do that in a great way, which I was so proud of, because inherently, if a character is an evil alignment, he knows that he's evil. He also knows that if you go out around shouting, "Hi, I'm evil," that you're probably gonna get a spear in your gut sometime soon. That's not how it works. And I've had a character, I have a person that I know, so perfectly manipulate the party into doing the worst deeds ever without them noticing.
Oh my!
And I was
goodness.
like, you are a piece of work, but a beautiful one. That purposely keeping some information back, so it seems like someone holding a keep is the bad guy, so that they make sure that it gets stormed, so that he can run off with all the loot that's inside, stuff like that. It's like, you are very disturbed. You are a very disturbed individual, and I love you for it. Please keep doing this.
How do you guys feel about people in the party keeping things from other people in the party and like slipping you notes as the GM, telling you things that you want to do that nobody else will know about, and you don't get to? What's that?
I tell them absolutely not. I had a little bit of issue with a group years ago where my phone was going off consistently while we were playing, when they're like, well, I want to do this, but I don't want anyone else to know. And, or like, I want to steal from this other character. Because one of the rules that I had, and I would get your opinion on this, Zev, is I made it, unless I had sanctioned it beforehand, I don't let them take an action against another player, because it hurts feelings too quickly. People they'd get really upset over it. They get,
because they feel betrayed instantly.
Yeah, really upset. Then it would dissolve the party.
Yeah, well, that safe space that Zev's talking about is like gone.
Exactly.
This is one of the things that I bring up is there's a few times when I allow secret messages, quote unquote. One of those is when there's a massive thing going on for like 3 out of 4 people of the party, and one of them is doing something else. That doesn't want to detract from whatever is going on. It's like, I'm fine, send me like a few quick little messages what you're doing. I might ask you to roll 1 or 2 dice, and then we're done with that. And you can tell everybody else what happened once you guys reconvene in the game. The other one is generally only most of the time before or after a game, where I sit down with that player when I know that that person has a secret goal, and we talk with each other about how he's getting there. Those are the 2 ways that secret messages can be used, basically, in my campaign. But one of those things is that beforehand, I want to talk with everyone and make it, first of all, noted to everyone that they should be fine with, for example, this person here wants to play an evil character. That doesn't mean that he's constantly going to work against the party or do anything like that, but there might be some points where he is going to show his evil tendencies, because that's part of his story arc.
Yeah.
If everybody's okay with that, then we can say yes, and we're not going to elaborate in exactly why he's evil, because that would hamper our sense of enjoyment and bewilderment once it happens, because we all like to explore what is going to happen with these characters. And if I tell someone, well, I'm going to be a cleric of the god of chaos and I want to destroy every church that exists because reasons, then it's not interesting anymore when I walk in and have this little special mark of Asagoth that I place on every church that I go to, for example.
Okay.
Yeah.
That ruins some of this, but we can talk with each other about the things that you want to do. If you want to build a stronghold to fill that up with goblins that you want to use as your legion, we don't all need to know that you can just talk with your GM, but let everybody else know, hi, I am a not so great character. I am very selfish, and the things that I do might not always be in the best interest of the party, but first in my interest. Are we fine if I play something like that? See, and if everybody says yes, then we can move on.
See, I don't mind something like that. My big thing is that generally secrets have to, at least in the groups I was playing, whenever they were doing something that was secret, it had less to do with their character development and more to do with trying to move their way around the other players.
That's exactly what I meant.
To either steal from them or take from them
or just
disrupt the gameplay almost.
Oh,
it's
see,
kind of like,
okay, so I wasn't quite meaning that though, Evan. So what I'm referring to is, the funny thing is we all know in being GMs that there are times when where we have to battle people who make decisions because things are said out loud. Things, regardless of how you tell them, you can't make a decision based on that. They still do, and their decisions are heavily influenced by what is revealed that they never would have known as a character. So I look at it as, because I take this as a fiction writer, turn around and saying, look, there's going to be thoughts, feelings, impulses, that other players, they're not going to know. So things like slipping the GM, like slipping Evan when I'm playing one of his campaigns, I'm going to slip out the back door to go check something and not tell anybody. And so it's funny when someone turns around and says, well, I go with Jamie. Well, Jamie's not there. Well, where'd he go? Well, you don't know. See, that doesn't ruin the game, but it throws, I guess, another element of, okay, so what do we do now? Because there's also players that are very reliant upon other players that can't seem to make a whole lot of choices on their own other than I shoot them, I stab them, I run, I take the gold. They're not strategic thinkers.
I think that
there's a lot of people that have a... Yes, go on.
I cut my dad off.
No, you guys are good. I'm just saying not I'm talking about how do you feel about passing notes, not for nefarious reasons or to mess with, but just isolated to the statement you made, Evan, sometimes to get around the other players, because sometimes there's just stuff or drama or conflict within conversations or ideas or whatever that they're going that you want to move on or to do something different that people aren't going to necessarily agree with. And so slip the GM a note and say, I'd like to go check this out or check that out, or, I leave, or, whatever, but throwing something in. So I'm just wondering on those smaller levels, how you guys feel as GMs, if you like or allow or disallow things like that.
Well, it kind of goes back to what I said at the beginning with the two ways that allow secrets is the smaller things that happen during game, where I'm fine if a large part of the party is doing something and a single individual or maybe a duo wants to do something specifically different, then I'll just have them message me the outlines, what they want to do. I'll tell them what they need to roll, and then we can return upon that later, or I'll give them a quick message whenever that's done.
Okay.
But there's also an advocate to be made that sure, you could get around the party, but on the other hand, if you at the table say, hey, I want to do this in the meantime, there is the chance for people to react to that, which could form different new interesting scenes, which you basically stop the chances of that happening straight up when you do it in a secret. And there's also, indeed, sometimes players, especially if you're not playing online, which it actually has to be a show, can get hung up on a very specific individual thing for a very long time. And it might help to have that one player be like, okay, guys, this has been fun, but I want to go check out this now. Okay, you've had like a literal in our world hour to do this. Shall we spend 10 minutes on my thing now? And that can also just keep the pace of game going if you need that from time to time.
Yeah. See, I think as far as allowing that, I'm okay with stuff like that. Like as someone said in the chat, I'll have to look up and see. A melody, as long as the players aren't slowing down or hampering the story because of it, I think that's kind of, balancing between that and the safe space. I'm okay with secrets, as long as they're not hampering that. It's the same reason. Like I have a problem with players that they get in like an argument, and then one player decides, well, I want to go do my own thing. So they go, so I'm going to go adventuring on my own. If you're not gonna stay with the group, like
then,
if you're done
then
playing,
why are you playing? Yeah,
exactly. And they're kind of like, well, I just want to do my own thing, but I still want to play. And it's like, you know what? I'm not okay with that.
See,
I need you guys.
It's one of the
because that makes it more complicated, doesn't it, Zev? Because that'll make it things far more complicated.
There is a very specific thing that I learned as a GM is that I now, whenever I start a campaign, whatever reason it is, I don't care what that reason is, but there will always be a binding force for the party. That could be that they're friends, that could be that they together have a debt that needs to be paid. Whatever it is, these 4, 5, 10, 12, 24, 86, 2,472 people, whatever it is, are bound together by some type of fate. Because I have had to deal with people that had no reason to be with each other, and it can be so grating and annoying and tiring for a GM. Because obviously the player's going to be, but my character would do this, which is the worst argument ever. We are at the beginning. At the end of the day, we are still players first, characters second. If you do something that as a player would inhibit the fun or the play of other players, you were being a dick at the table.
I agree.
I can agree with that.
So and part of it, I guess, and I don't know how much of it's my fault on the being the GM and the individuals that I play with so often, because I live in kind of a rural area. There's not a lot population wise, and so most of the individuals that I play with, it's their first role playing groups.
Yeah, and we have like dogs and cows and who can't read well. Actually, the group that Evan picked up, and Evan's for the record, Evan has gotten so good at being a GM that we have friends that live, I don't know, like 5 cities away. They drive down twice a month to play.
And we haven't done it in recent time, but yeah, they would take the hour drive down here twice a month to come play.
So it's fun.
Nice.
It's very fun. Yeah, they carpool from where we used to live. They're like, let's go down. Are we playing? Yeah. And we come down. We have a blast. I actually like how Evan has streamlined a lot of things. And for a lot of instances, he's gone to percentile dice, which I actually appreciate, instead of exactness. Not with damage, but when accomplishing things, taking variables into play and then rolling percentile dice. I always feel that creates more realism in a game. And so I enjoy that.
Well, I was gonna say, there's my next one is that, do you guys have a preferred dice system that you like over the other ones?
I have one I want to try. Because I like the percent.
That would be.
I like the percentile, but I kind of had this idea, and then I actually really want to do it after watching Zev's stream. No joke. After watching Zeyv I think he was using the D20 thing up on a stream, but I realized, I was
using Roll20, yeah.
Yeah, I realized, okay, I like the percentage, the percentiles that you use, Evan. But for some reason, I also like, regardless of the percentile, I like the idea of no matter what you do, there is a component of the universe or fate or the gods, however you want to put it, interacts in your life. Because you might want to do something. Like the famous person said, who was religious, said, you can aim your gun, you can fire the bullet, but only God will determine whether or not that bullet hits its target. And he was talking about shooting another human being. And I took that quote and I thought, there's got to be. I'd like to see a way that, regardless of what you roll, of having some kind of a fate or a chance roll to either accelerate it or to numb it. And that's for a lack of a better term. But I was thinking like some coins. I actually thought of taking like three coins. You could take 3 pennies and determine, depending upon, heads are luck and tails are a curse. And so when you throw the 3 pennies, what's the combination? So does it veer off? What's that?
So, something you might be interested in looking at is the fate system. There's Fate Accelerated, which works with 4 dice. There are 6-sided dice, and you basically have stats that go from 0 up to 8, with the average being 2 or 3. So 8 meaning you are superhuman, super special, whatever.
Okay.
And I'm specifically talking about Fate Accelerated, which is literally just only 30 pages of rules. It's a very simple system to get into. And the 4 dice that you use are called fudge dice. They have 2 pluses, 2 minuses, and 2 blanks.
Huh.
You roll your stat plus whatever you get as a result of that. A plus is a +1, a minus is a -1. And you set difficulties on how hard the thing is that you want to achieve. And that whole game can be learned in 2 hours max. If you literally just want to sit down, you've never heard of it, you've never played it, and just read through Fate Accelerated for 30 minutes, you know exactly how it works, and you can make a character. And the easy thing about it as well is that Fate Accelerated is entirely open to any setting. You could play it in medieval fantasy, you could play it in the vast outreaches of space, you could play it as a detective noir game. It goes everywhere. And it's literally just saying, you are this good at this, and this is how much luck you'll get from the situation.
And what is that called again?
Fate Accelerated.
Fate Accelerated.
And the great thing is
looking
the
it up
game
right
is
now as
only
we
a few
talk,
bucks.
so.
The game is only a few bucks, and you can also get it for free.
Hey, Evan is from Evil Hat.
Oh, really?
Yes, it is.
So Evil Hat, we actually spent a good portion of last weekend with the editor from Evil Hat Games, the person in charge of saying whether or not a game passes or not.
Nice. And I need to talk with you guys more often for contacts. Network for me.
There's the link for everybody in chat that's going on. So this looks very curious. But here's the funny thing: even those dice. Think about it this way. Oh, and Evan, it's another $5 game. We need to bring up the ones that we bought while we were at the convention. But even those dice that you described, you could still do that with just coins, because you'd have the heads as the pluses, the backsides, the tails, as negatives, and if any of the coins touch when you flip them, could be blank. So you could still get that same effect.
You could also literally just buy any package of D6s. Often there's like 5 or 6 D6s in a package for a buck somewhere.
Yep.
And worst case scenario, you just grab a Sharpie.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other thing too is one system that I enjoyed. I've wondered about incorporating it into RPG. Is I don't know if any of you are familiar with or I guess my dad is, but Zeyv, if you're familiar with Warhammer.
Yes, I am.
The tabletop. Anyway, so you know how the dice rolls work.
If I remember correctly, in the Warhammer games, you have a stat, for example, that's 41, and you roll a D100, you need to get your stat or lower to succeed, if I remember correctly.
For a portion of that, a lot of it's like for those rolls, for stat rolls. But then, like, if you're attacking someone, for example, you compare your strength to their strength, and then you need, say, example, you need like a 4+. Then if you can exceed, or then if you succeed on that roll, then you have a wounding roll. So you've hit them, but now you need a roll to wound them. And if you successfully succeed on that wounding roll, then they get an armor save. Depending on, I guess, whether they do or whether their character has.
Yeah, no,
it's kind
I know it. It Warhammer, same as with Pathfinder and 3.5 D&D, are some of those games that I do sometimes call out for being complicated for complicated's sake. Because a lot of these mechanics have been put in there because, hey guys, if we have a bunch of rules, it seems like we'll make a better game, right?
No.
I don't see Warhammers that way, but I don't know. It's taken me a little bit. It is one of my all-time favorite games. I enjoy it just immensely. But but I like that. I like that
you might be interested. Yeah, something that you might be interested in is then take a look at the new. You might be interested in taking a look at the new Grim and Perilous Zweihander, because that game is a dark fantasy game completely built upon how Warhammer works. Basically, they took that system, expanded upon it, and build a order versus chaos kind of dark fantasy game where you can literally be almost anything.
It sounds fun.
Wow, guess what?
And they're working it the same way as that Pathfinder did, where it's an OGL. So if you don't want to pay anything, you can literally just get the art-free PDF, and it's like 700 or 800 pages for free on Drive for RG. And I'm not sure if it's ready yet. I believe they were supposed to have readied it at the end of January, but maybe they put it off to the end of February. But they're working on a website version of that, the same along the lines of the DF20 PFSRD. It's just like a massive database online that you can use to just look up all the rules for free.
Okay. Well, yeah, I definitely want to try some new things, because part of the thing where I'm at is that that it's I've been in the same role-playing group for years, but we're also playing the same campaign. So my next question was do you guys prefer long campaigns or shorter? I guess shorter campaigns and multiple campaigns.
Jamie, you take this one first.
It depends on who I'm playing with. If it's people that are the smash and bash and they seem to be more emotional or volatile personalities, I prefer smaller campaigns, mainly because I use them. Well, first of all, I don't want to have a headache. Number two, usually those types of personalities are also those that are not consistent in showing up and playing. And so I would rather have things that finish so that if next time, if I say I have 8 players and only 6 show up, we can still play. We just disregard those 2 people until they can come next time. Because if you really have involved things and we're going to spend time, and I like spending time and planning things, I want to make sure everybody's there, but that's not always possible. So if it's volatile individuals that seem to have knee-jerk reactions, or like I said, just smash and grab type things, I'll do shorter campaigns. And sometimes, a lot of the times, I'll turn up. Evan, even as a writer, I try not to cater, but to craft things, to hone things according to the personalities that I'm going to interact with. And so if I know who's going to play beforehand, I just strive to create what they will like. I mean, you already know, like the group that you run, we love an ongoing story. But if I have people that really love the game, and frankly, I know this is not. I rarely, if ever, hear this term brought up when it comes to role-playing games, but grateful players, not characters. Because people who enjoy something and they're appreciative after, this is just a thing of manners. I like to do a lot more for them. When they're, as Zeyv so delicately put it, if they're dicks, then I really don't give a crap. I'd rather, before they show up in 2 hours, I'll go and write down some notes and we'll wing it. And even if I can't figure something out, I'll use percentile dice and roll behind a screen, and we just play it, because I am a storyteller. So is Zev, and so are you. And so we can wing a lot of things to adjust them according to the needs and desires of people and whether or not that was the actual role, but they're enjoying themselves. Who the crap cares? But if it's people that are grateful and they enjoy the challenge and they think things through, I love doing a longer campaign. And then even better is I like doing the smaller campaigns that are all the components and the puzzle pieces to a larger campaign.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, for me, I love doing one shots because they let you explore both new games and new settings, and you can be a lot more free with what you do with your characters and what you do with your setting and how you play it because there's no permanence to it. I have the one thing that I've learned is it is very, very easy to start a campaign. It is pretty easy to keep on going on a campaign, but ending any campaign is a horrible ordeal. There is no lessons out there how to be better at it. You'll just have to get through it. There's literally no word written, for example, in the D&D books, both the DMG or the PHB. For those who don't know what I'm talking about the Dungeon Master Guide or the Player's Handbook, nor Xenopha's Guide to Everything that talk not even a word about how to end the campaign. That's just something you need to be good at. And through that, what I found is that as a GM, it can be very draining and exhausting to not have a proper end set already for your campaign before you start. Because you can feel pressure to try and keep on going. Because you have players that love what you're doing and they have this whole campaign world and just like, we want to keep on going, we want to do this. And for me at least, it can be a severe part of GM fatigue. I can just get tired of a world and want to do something different, especially if I don't know what I'm working towards. So what I tend to do now is if I'm not running one-shots, I try and look for smaller campaigns and we can string smaller campaigns together to build a large campaign. You can take a year off in between and grab the same characters and put them somewhere else and start a new campaign after that.
Yeah, I think I guess that's where I'm trying to figure out is whether or not I want to take a break and maybe do some one shots or play some other parts of the world. Because I've been playing this with this specific gaming group. We've been playing since the end of 2015, and it's been the same campaign since then. And we meet at least once a month, generally every other week. And I started it. I mean, we started it in an introduction to role playing, and then it just kind of skyrocketed from there. And we've been playing it ever since. But I've been wanting to try some different things. I don't know how to exactly end the campaign, but at the same time, do you guys ever get attached to a campaign and that, like, I don't know, it's going good enough you don't want to stop?
Do you mean as a GM or as a player?
Either or.
Well, as a GM, my first campaign that I run in Pathfinder, I think I've written more than 5,000 pages of information about that world, the campaign, and how everything works. That is, you can't let that go too easily. But at some point, for me, it just got too tiresome. And then, as a little bit of a gift from the heavens, I had to move to Germany. So I couldn't run the campaign anymore anyway. So that was my story on that part, basically. And since then, I learned how to put these kind of things together so I don't tire myself out. One of the things I do now is, with the campaign that I run, is every 10 sessions about, I say someone run a one-shot, or I'll run a one-shot, whatever, but have a break somewhere every 10 sessions. Because 10 sessions, even if you play weekly, is already 2.5 months of play.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I think I hear you on having a what would you say 5,000 pages of camp? Yeah, I'm right about there.
Especially because it wasn't Pathfinder.
Well, and the thing is, so here's my other thing is, do you prefer to play some of these pre-made modules, or do you prefer your own homebrew systems, just like you personally?
I play Tomb of Annihilation now. I cannot handle pre-mades. I don't know why. Everybody always tells me, just run a pre-made. It's easier. It isn't to me.
You know why?
What
You
it
know
is
why? No, but you know why, Zev? It's because you're creative and you're clever. I have the same problem. I can't. I
and
just can't.
yes,
Even
and
if
I
you
also
even if you take one because your players say, "Hey, this is what we really want to do," you know, just like I do, you're going to take it home and you're going to rip the sucker to pieces and you're going to put enough in that they think they're playing it, but you're still going to do it your way.
well, no, actually, for me, it's entirely the other way around. I learned GMing by homebrewing.
Oh
I
wow.
never ran a campaign. I just straight up started homebrewing, and I have learned how to GM by literally just flying by the seat of my pants, and just making everything that I need up on the spot if I haven't prepped it. And that is how I do shit. And if I prepped it, I would have known it.
It's
But now
fun.
there's a whole book with information that I don't know from the top of my head, but I want to give in the campaign because that's what we bought for. But I don't know what's going on, so I actually have to wait until I find out this.
See, I don't know how it is in Europe, but when I was, or even if they still do it now, but when I was growing up, heck, every comic book store seemed to have, those stands, that normally have like postcards in them, but they would have like racks for comic books and all that. Well, in the comic book stores where I grew up, they would have several of those that had Dungeons and Dragons, the preset modules that were usually $9. And so every once in a while, my mom and my dad would buy some for me, or I'd buy some, and so I had this growing, little box filled with these presets. But then I would bring them home and say, I really like this and this and this, but it's too weak, or it's too boring, or combine a few of them, or whatever. So no, Zev is not Scottish; he's Dutch.
Well, like I said, I can be if you want me to, though. Not a problem. I can.
See, I'm with Zed in it. I learned role playing and I learned GMing by doing homebrew, and part of it is because since my dad my dad, he's already expressed that he didn't like these pre-made ones. So growing up, my experiences with role playing were with my dad. It'd be like, hey, I'm turning 12. I want to have a role playing party, and my dad's like, then I'll gather everything together,
Yep.
and we'll play, and that was really enjoyable, and that's how I kind of got into role playing. But because he kind of did that homebrew, I went straight into homebrew. I had this thing against, I guess for a little while, I had this thing against campaigns, and the reason I like campaigns is because after I stopped doing it as much with my dad and I was going out and trying to find and play with other players, my biggest problem was they would run one-shot campaigns all the time, and I felt like I could never get into character. You know what I mean? You could never
Oh yeah, I know.
You could never complete anything. It was frustrating. I was like, I want to develop my character, or it'd be so long between sessions that character sheets were lost or things. And now I don't even send players home with character sheets. I was like, no, these are staying with me in a binder because someone's gonna forget it, and I'm not dealing with that.
Exactly.
Generally, there's two types of characters I try and make. There's stereotypes, basically, and those stereotypes you use for one-shots. You get into them real quick, they're fun to play, but they would get boring if you play them for longer than 2 or 3 sessions, maybe. And then there's the more complex characters that maybe as a start off as something very simple and one-shot isn't stereotypical, but they have those underlying layers to keep that. And yes, I'm keeping the accent up for insane. Just for funsies. But yeah, I actually have the problem right now that I'm playing a character that has some depth with it, but it is way more of a one-shot character actually than it is than a full campaign character, while it is in a campaign. And I can't get boring from time to time because it's basically just good at one thing.
Give me a second to cycle through and figure out what you were saying.
Should quick idea if you're watching me like me too. I go just move straight on straight to the Irish. No, I'll go back to normal English. I'll go back to normal English. Don't worry.
I don't know. I don't think you have a normal English because you sound. I mean, you've got a Dutch accent anyway, so.
It will always be in there. That's something that I learned, especially going abroad. You can imitate another accent as much as you want to. You'll never get completely rid of your accent. It will always be there, no matter how small it is. And it will always especially peek on through when you get tired.
Yep. Well, so as far as someone getting into campaigns, or I guess getting into role playing, how would you recommend someone get started? You know, if anyone in the chat, if it would be their first time, or how would you recommend they go about getting started with role playing games?
All right, Zeb, you start with that one. Yeah.
Just do it. Okay, now that that's out of the way, if you're the GM and there's a person that's coming into your game, no matter if the campaign's already rolling or if it's a campaign that's going to get started and they're new, I'd suggest letting them roll a random character. Just roll a random character. Don't think of what you want to play because you don't know how the game works yet. So you don't want to worry about what a character does or whatever. You just want to have a character and go mess around with him, figure out what he can do, how it works, etc., etc., etc. Because if you have a character that you're very attached to, you're afraid you're gonna lose it, so you don't dare do anything, and you just sit back and just do the things you need to do. If you're a character that you have no idea what they do, whatever, and especially 5e gets a lot better with this since there's a whole background thing now, so that gives you already a bit of an idea. You are entirely free to explore, and that gets people in a new mindset already. That opens them up way more to do new things in game, instead of feel limited by what they already have.
Okay.
And always start at level 1 if you're new. Always. Oh, no matter if you have a party that's already at level 10, start that person at level 1 and have them be an escort mission or whatever.
See, I like even when a player dies and they have to reroll a character, they start at level 1. It's the consequence of dying. So I punish them for dying. But,
you punish them for dying. You've died. Now you're going to experience discomfort. What?
Well, here's why I started doing that. I'd have these games where somebody would go, they'd be like 2 or 3 games in, and they'd be like, "I hate my character," and because with my system, it's a little bit on the complicated side, so it's so character creation can be kind of extensive, and so for someone to go, okay, well, I'm going to just make a new character. I want to take up the GM's time. I want to figure all this out, and it was getting to me. And then they'd go, okay, well, I'm just going to act stupid till something kills my character, and then Evan will let me have a new one, you know. And it was getting to me bad enough that I was like, you know what? If you die, you're going to be level 1. Your new character is going to be level 1, and you're going to be below all the other characters. And only because they were just dying on purpose. That's what got to me.
How often does it come up that a person wants to play a new character in your campaigns?
Not often anymore.
It's like
when I was a teenager and playing, you know, it was much more common. But it was part of the groups that I played with. It was the same groups that only liked one shots, and so they'd play like 1 or 2 games and they'd be done. You know, they'd be like, hey, well, I just had a better idea for a campaign, so we're gonna play this better idea, or I just had I don't know. It was kind of all over the place, and so when we did play and we're like, oh, let's have a consistent campaign. Yeah, let's definitely do that. And then, you know, a few moments later, they'd change, or a few games later, they'd change their mind. Let's just kill everything and start over. And
yeah, there are certain different types of play and how I see it, where some of those it is fine to have people die and start off at level 1. For example, running a West Marches style campaign where you play with a lot of people, but they all basically share the same map and can go to the same places. Having a person that dies and go to level 1, that person can play again with the people that came in later and are lower level, etc., etc. and there's stuff you can do with those games then to keep them up to a higher level when it's needed. But as a person, and some people in the chat that are in my game will probably shout at me because I literally yesterday killed two players. I hate it when characters die.
I do too.
Because character death is literally the most boring and annoying thing that can happen. I can literally grab my GM notebook right now and look in here about the notes that I have on the characters Bag and Yarissa that I have been playing with for quite some time, and I've written about 50 pages on them, and yesterday they died. Because some rolls weren't in our favor. All those notes, gone, useless, never mind.
Yep.
And it would be even worse to have the new character start at level 1. Since they are already experienced players, and especially something like D&D, level 1 and 2 are horrible. They're very swingy, you can die really quickly, and it only starts getting interesting from level 3 anyway, because that's when you can actually start building a character instead of a literal peasant that dies when it sees a fly land on its face. And in that case as well, you don't want to distract players from the fact that they have died. That is something that they'll already have to deal with the fact that they've lost a character that they might really love, and have to build a new one. And I see starting at the lowest level of the party, I see that as more than enough. So if, for example, you have a party of 2 level 5 and 2 level 4, start everyone at level 4. You don't suddenly, unless there's a specific reason, you don't want a character coming in that's already stronger than whatever died. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to keep them so low on the power structure that they can't do anything anymore. Because especially games like D&D that have a bit more complicated monsters really can just bork you over when it comes to encounters.
Yeah.
You cannot build interesting encounters anymore.
Yeah, I can see that. I think my big thing was I guess because for example, if they died in a non-disconnected way, they died doing their best, it was just bad rolls or something like that, then I'd boost their character up faster. I'd still start them at level 1, but they'd level quickly up to the group. I think part of the problem though is because the group that I play with, most of them they're really unattached from the role playing side. They're unattached to the whole create a character, create a backstory, create a personality. It's more about get loot, get gear, kill bad guys, get loot, get gear, kill bad guys.
Well, then to be fair, then you'll have to ask yourself if you're in a group the right people. Because if they are people that want to play a gauntlet and just want to go into a dungeon and murder everything that's in it and overcome all of its challenges and then move on to the next massive dungeon, while you are a person that wants to build up intrigue and have more political structure within the game that builds interesting moral choices, then it seems like you two are not a good fit, or you haven't talked about whatever you want to do with the game. That is something to bring up.
To a large point, I agree. So the only reason I'm here is they're literally the only role-playing group like 25 miles.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that maybe this is the perfect segue to Roll20 and fantasy.
Right? So I'm just if you want to invite me, I'll join in your guys' sessions. I want to play.
I do too.
So I've got kind of I've got a question, and this is going to kind of go a completely different route, but I'm curious of your opinion. So one of the reasons I felt obligated to keep this campaign going is we had 2 brothers that were playing, and they were part of the founding group, that 2.5 years ago, and one of them committed suicide a couple months ago.
Yeah, it was really sad.
And the little brother, who's still in the group, kind of he's attached to his brother's character hanging out, and it's let's see, he's 22 years old, but he's but like every time we play, he's like, well, what's my brother's character doing out and about in this world right now, or stuff like that. You know what I mean? And he's quite attached to the idea that his brother's character is still there and playing and things like that. And how would you deal with that situation? Because on one hand, it was his older brother that killed himself, and and this was the only thing that they did together. Would you feel?
Well, that is at all not a loaded question.
It is a very loaded question.
Breeze in the park. The way I would, first off, I'd have a talk with them, because it is always very important to talk with what they're up to and what is healthy for them in this case. If they start being obsessive with their character because they feel a sense of longing to their brother that's not there anymore, then it might not be smart to have that character be there in the game anymore, because it's a constant reminder. It is a conduit for that obsession. However, if it's a sense of nostalgia that just gets brought back, a little nice touch, then
that's not bad.
I am all for it. This is exactly what role-playing games do for us. They let us live in a fantasy and try things that we couldn't try in our real life. And if being with your dead brother's character is one of those things that you can do in a healthy manner, then it would be great to have that character as an NPC within the connected universe, have him pop up in a tavern from time to time, or be a quest giver from time to time, and have him return in different forms.
And there's a third thing too. I totally agree with you, Zev. There's a third thing too that I've seen, and that is when someone feels a loss. Sometimes the interaction. I've had a player that has interacted with a character that reminded them of somebody, and after a while, they just decided not to engage with that person anymore. It seemed to be used as a process for them to heal and to move on. And you never know until, like you said, you have that conversation. So
yeah,
you need to have that conversation. And one thing that I would suggest is never try and make that person an interesting NPC, but never make it an important NPC to the story, because you do not want to role play that character.
Well, that's kind of
because you could twist that personality. That could get bad.
So that's
you
kind of where
cannot role play him like that brother would have.
Exactly, and that's so what I've done, and to the best of my abilities, he's kind of off adventuring on his own, and he'll be like, "Well, what's my character doing?" Or he'll wander into the town, and he'll be like, "Well, I'm going to ask the NPCs if he walked by and." Or did he come through, or things like that, and like, so I feel obligated to kind of keep that idea alive, but without actively having him interact with the party. But I guess I kind of feel obligated to keep that going.
I think you're doing. I think you're doing good, and you're also going a little bit over of what Zev was suggesting. If you're feeling obligated, I think that's the bad line. If you're providing something so that there's some interaction, that's not a bad thing. But if you're feeling obligated, I think that's the line you've approached that now needs to be dealt with. That's just my feeling.
Obligation leads to forced, and forced is not a safe space.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I appreciate that. So, we were talking about going into a kind of a Roll20. So I know what Roll20 is. I've opened up a browser and looked at it, but that's about it. So explain to me.
I get their emails, and I still don't know anything about it. I still get their emails. I've never used it.
I guess I should give a little bit of a rundown.
Yes, you should.
Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds are. Okay. I have in the chat, I've posted a link to Roll20 for those that want to check it out. Cool. Roll20 is, let me see what their words are. Do they have words on their front page?
This is how we roll. Like it.
Well, they're a virtual tabletop. So what they do is they present a place for you to hang out with your friends online and roll dice. And they're really good at it. Hey! What it essentially is just like Twitch has basically the screen in which you would see a stream with the chat next to it. Roll20 does the same thing, where there's a screen in which the GM can post maps. The GM has all kinds of tools with which he can drag characters around. You will have your own tokens that you can move around. there's a lot of things that make it actually get a lot easier in comparison to how you run D&D, for example, in real life. Because since it's a computed system, it can do a lot of the math for you. It is free, by the way, but you can choose to get a Plus or a Pro subscription. Those are all different kind of things.
But
the
what?
base package is free.
No,
you can do everything
stop,
with it.
Stop. Because I'm totally curious about this. Okay, so because I'm looking at it and I'm looking at the front page and it says like Dungeons and Dragons, the 13th, was that the 13th age? I can't see that even with my glasses there. You've got was it Ensigns Gold? Anyway, plus hundreds of other games. So you can use this. It can adapt to whatever role-playing game that you're doing. But you say that it has plus accounts. What are the advantages to having a paid account? Or do you use a paid account or a free account?
I have had a Pro account for some time, and I've recently went back to a Plus account due to monetary reasons on my side.
No, that's fine.
All you get for all you get for the paid subscriptions are cool bonuses. You do not need any of them. Okay. The main one for the Plus account, that's the $5 a month there, is it gets you a very cool system that is called dynamic lighting.
Okay.
As a GM, you can then get basically an extra map in which you map layer in which you can set up walls. So that if you place a token in it, you can give that token actual sight and show the people that are playing basically a black screen with only the map shown in the places where
they have
of the token could see.
Oh,
yes, where they have light or where they have dark vision.
That's awesome.
That is a very cool system.
That's worth $5.
That it indeed is.
That's clever. Okay.
And there's a lot of extra stuff, especially, for example, if you go to the $10 a month, you can use APIs to do a lot of stuff for you. Those are basically just little scripts that run special stuff for you. You have the graphical effects tool that will get added to. If you pay for any of the accounts, you also get access to the tablet and mobile phone support. Otherwise, you'll have to play on a desktop.
Okay.
And what I'll just do is I've posted the link in there, and that is basically the complete overview of what you will get for your subscription level. Also for what you just get for free then.
Question, Zeyv. So when you say like the APIs, the things that could be automated, are those things that I have to learn how to write the scripts myself, or is it like a drag and drop? They have things that are available that I just either modify or activate?
There's an entire database of things that already exist, which you can just roll in.
Oh, nice.
If you also have the Pro account, you can create your own character sheets, because almost every single game that exists, almost of TRPGs, have character sheets, and these character sheets have been entirely codified and do a lot of the math for you, to the point where you literally just need to push a button and it will roll for you plus whatever your modifier is and give you the results.
But you can only create your own custom character sheets with the Pro account?
Yes, but if, for example, if I click here on create new game real quick and I take a look through the character sheet options, there is... I'm not even going to finish, but let me just start off with Sheets for Roll20, The Strange, 13th Age Official Sheet, Chronicles of Darkness Official Age, 5th Edition, Gumshoe Edition, Dungeon World Official, Star Trek Adventures, 13th Age Legacy for the Official Sheet, 2D20, Conan, Infinity, Musical Chronicles, Star Trek Adventures Official, 3DT, Alpha, A Song of Ice and Fire, a Borrow game. We're just at the A now. I can keep on going. There's a massive list of character sheets already built in.
Okay.
For everything. And if you go with some of the more well-known games, such as Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, and Dungeon World, there's also already a built-in compendium, which already has all the rules, and you just literally can just drag and drop, for example, a sword into your character sheet, and will equip it automatically.
Okay.
It is a real nifty way of automation and running everything for you. And I use it to play with people all around the world.
Well, I guess I was just curious because I've wanted to. The only reason I was looking into it is to do it with some of my groups, but using my system, I was just looking for a way to use my own sheets or my own stuff. So I guess I'd have to use the Pro for that. My next question is then, as far as your players go, does each one need a PC, or say, could I, like if I'm GMing and a bunch of my players live together, can they just log into the same PC and go from there, or do they need multiple?
Generally, you log into an account, so you'll need different instances of all of them. You can bork the system a little bit by making a duplicate of your tab and then logging out and logging in with a new character, but you need to make sure you do not refresh the page on the other one, because then it will automatically go back to the other account.
Yeah. Okay.
But you can bork it a little bit that way. But all in all, because there's also this point, only the GM of a game needs to have a higher subscription, and everyone who plays in his game will automatically gain all the benefits of that subscription.
Oh, so
if I build a game,
you could co-op pay for this if you're playing as a group.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh,
if you can't pay for it or anything along those lines, you can literally just, if you have 10 characters, you can tell everyone, give me $1 a month, and I will get the pro subscription, and we can fix everything.
Right on. That works. Yeah. Evan, could you see, will you look into this and see, this might be a fun thing. We create a special section for our patrons and role play once or twice a month with a group of patrons and do Wanted Hero role playing. That would be sweet.
Well, I was also just looking into doing stuff on Twitch. I guess because like we talked about earlier, that maybe I'm not a good fit for the group that I'm in. I'm just looking for anyone that wants to play. Like, I mean, if I can join your guys' Roll20 group, if you guys have room, then let me know. But,
we already have 5 players and 2 NPCs. We are full. I'll have to look, because I like putting in players as guests, basically, as NPCs, basically. So I'll just give them an NPC sheet, and it's like, you're dead now for 2 sessions or whatever. But that is something that I'll need to look into if I have the time. I might be starting a new campaign at some point within the next coming month that I might be doing online. I'm thinking about stuff. I am not going to actually put anything as official yet.
For sure.
So those are things to keep in mind.
Well, so that brings me to my next question. What would you say the ideal group size is for a role-playing session?
Do you have an ideal group size, Jamie?
It depends on whether or not I have a headache that day. So it's true. It's true, because if you have, again, it always comes down to, I think the most important part about role playing is what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, and that happens to be, it's the people that you play with. It's developing your team. I mean, Evan has gone through this process over the last few years, but you've noticed is that this has been a natural filtering process. We have a group that we've had a few extra people show up with your longest running group, but they usually only stay 1 or 2 games, and then they don't come back. We have our set people, and we work very, very well together. So I could run that group, or a group like them that works well and interacts together. If you have a group that argues, if you have a group that literally are just trying to, like, I can't remember the player that used to. Well, because then you have some people that have the mentality of, I don't necessarily want to win. I just want to make sure that I don't have to win, but I just want to make sure you lose. There are people that play with that mentality. So it all depends upon the individuals, because, and the age. Oh my goodness, and the age. And I mean literally and emotionally the age. So
you don't want a bunch of teenagers that are emotionally 12.
Yeah, I mean, and what's funny is that, I mean, look, when we play with your siblings that are so much younger than you, we can sit there and play for 4 or 6 hours and be laughing and want to keep going, and we've just run out of time. But I can have a room full of people and have 8 or 9 people, and I don't know. As soon as you hit 8 people, you're really pushing it, unless you have everything planned out and they are exceptional in interacting one with another. Otherwise, I guess all things considered, Zev, I'd probably say 4 people would be the optimum, unless you're really experienced, because there's too much time lapse and people making decisions, and so you get a lot of people that they get antsy because they want their turn, and if it takes too long, then chances are they're not going to show up next time. So I'd say 4. for just as an average, and then just say it depends on the people. Fair enough.
Yeah, I feel the same way in a lot of ways. There's obviously, because we are playing with friends, we're not playing with actors, so there's a lot of people that don't really know when to pass the torch.
Oh yeah.
And there's also a lot of, and there's also the funny thing is a lot of people that are very experienced can still be very new to the game or have no idea what they need to do. I have known people that have played it for a long time and still don't barely ever do anything in the game, nor ever have an idea of what they can do.
Yeah.
And even people that might understand the game real good might not understand social structures all too well from time to time, and keep on hammering on about a small little thing that could have been done in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's the part in seeing what game you can get together with what people, because it also has to do with the game that you're playing. There are games such as The Burning Wheel and Fate that work way more on scenes than they work on basically, as if you want to call it, life simulation, what D&D does, for example, where we're just going to go through just days upon days because there's mechanics for days and everything. Well, Fate just says we build a scene, we'll play out the scene, and then we'll start the next scene, and we'll keep on moving like that.
Okay.
So those kind of things give even more power to the GM to keep a pace, because the next thing in the scene will just happen if you don't do anything.
Yep. Okay. I agree.
So that sounds like an interesting way to do it. What did you say the systems were that did that? Was one of them the Fate Accelerated?
Fate and Fate Accelerated both do that. For example, Burning Wheel is a game that is pretty complex in how it works, but it's built to it's a very hard game to explain, but it's a medieval fantasy game which is in a way more down to earth, but can get way more chaotic once you actually introduce magic, because magic in that game is made to break the rules. Not like D&D, where we need to balance every spell because it needs to deal about the same amount of damage that a fighter should be capable of doing at this level. No, it's just, oh, you're a mage. You can literally call forth the demons from hell and let them take over the world if you do something wrong. That's how mages work, because there's not a lot of these and they're very special. But that game as well, since it is just literally where in medieval fantasy, you can create either a noble or a peasant or a slave. You can create almost everything. We'll just build scenes with these characters. And if there's nothing going on that is intrinsic to any of those characters, there's no reason to have it in the game. So I'll just have a scene about some characters being together and doing something, and then you'll just move on to a different scene with some other people together, or where everyone's together and they're doing a specific thing. There's no reason to describe them walking to a different city if nothing happens on the way there. And it's in that way, there is also a way how I better learned how to GM for stuff like D&D. Because if it is a very simple part of cut the bullshit. If there's nothing interesting at all going on except for walking and you just rolling the Jeep that might have a random encounter and your game is not built for that, then just skip that part.
Yeah.
Bring them to where they want to go, or bring them to where something interesting happens.
It really comes down that this is all storytelling. It really is.
I agree.
You're great at it, Evan. You're really, really good at it. So.
Well, so as far as design goes, do you have a system that I guess, since we've talked about the D20, or I guess Roll20, is there a game on there that you prefer for starters?
You mean
for people getting into role playing?
Do you mean to use for the Roll20?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too. Zeyv.
If you have a bunch of people that want to get started online, well, it depends. If you already have a group, but it doesn't work out anymore to get together every time over and over again, just continue whatever game you were doing online. Because even if you can't build a character sheet, you can still have them have the character sheet in front of them, and Roll20 just works with you can just type /roll and then whatever you want to roll 3d6, and it will just roll it for you. It has systems for that in place. So you don't even need to have any character sheets if for some reason your character sheets aren't there. If, however, you are with a bunch of new people and you have no real experience with any real game yet, either play the game that drew you to it, because for a lot of people that's D&D and it will always be D&D. D&D 5e is getting a lot better for getting new people in. Or look at what genre you want to play. If you want to play some space fighting, some space or orchestra kind of, yeah. I don't do a lot of those space things, so hey, I'm not good at that. I suggest either playing Stars Without Number, which is a bit of a D&D like system, a little bit easier, but the great thing about Stars Without Number is it has a complete section for GMs on how to run that game with actual mechanical things like faction turns and everything to keep track of whatever is happening. Or use Fate. Fate can be used for any system. It is super easy to learn. Fate Accelerated, not Fate Accelerated. And can be applied to whatever your ID is. And if you want to go more the Dungeons & Dragons route, what I might still suggest then is to play Dungeon World. Dungeon World is a smaller, more narrative-based D&D, basically, which has about 90 pages of rules, I believe, which a lot of those are character-specific rules. So you, obviously, just like D&D and all that kind of stuff, you don't need to read all of it. And it's way easy to pull together quick little encounters and just base everything on whatever is going on in the narrative at that moment.
Okay. Sounds interesting. Now, for those that, I guess, listening, would you recommend, well, I guess I know you would recommend getting into role-playing, but why would you recommend role-playing? What are the benefits to role-playing over, say, getting a World of Warcraft subscription and using your time that way instead?
Well, one of those things is that you can build very deep and interesting relationships with the people that you play this game with. Because at the end of the day, almost every character you make is an extension of yourself in some way. And if you do it right, everybody at the table can at some point become almost family to you. So that's a very, very strong feeling that can happen. Plus, one of the great things about the role-playing part of these games is they let you explore yourself and learn who you are by trying things out. Maybe you are very scared about your sexuality. Stuff that you can't normally out on your own. These are things you can then try out in a safe environment like a D&D session to see how you'd react and how others react.
I'm terrified of growing houseplants.
This is your chance. We'll build a Fate game about a greenhouse. But it's one of those reasons why in the beginning I hammered down on the safe spaces, because these safe spaces are what let us experiment with ourselves and let us. We are inherently complex, and that is not just the people around us, that is ourselves as well. And we, especially in this very busy day and age where there's a lot of stress everywhere, these are the times that you can both forget about all the bullshit that's happening in your world right now and eternalize a little bit of your struggles and bring them out, make them a bit more vulnerable, and work with them. It has been shown that both soldiers and a lot of children that both struggle with mental disabilities or PTSD, etc., play stuff like Dungeons & Dragons to help them cope with those things.
Okay.
And these are things that World of Warcraft, for example, can help you with as well, but only often if you get that whole guild going, where you have the great right base of friends that you go out with. Because there's the social part of World of Warcraft. It is there, but there are way more walls in the way, and that's not even just in the game sense. Because in the most basics of all, if you just want to have fun, then TRPGs are so much easier for you because there is no invisible walls to walk against.
Yep. Yeah. Totally agree.
Nor
totally agree.
There are no limits in those games.
Okay. See, and that's kind of the same line that I think of when because I think the big thing is as much as because I played World of Warcraft for a while, and I enjoyed it, but I felt that that I guess role playing, like you said, to a certain degree they become I think that that it is discovering yourself a little bit, discovering some of your personalities, and I think one of the other things was learning to make decisions. You know, who's kind of intrepid, maybe a little bit shy, and I think one of the benefits that I when I tell people you need to learn to or you should role play, I tell them because you're going to learn how to make decisions, and between making decisions, between learning to deal with difficult situations and difficult people, I think that,
yeah, and it learns you to be more social as well. That's the whole point of it, because there's a lot of people with social anxiety. They don't. There's people that don't even dare go out because they have to get along with people, or just get really tired while being within a social environment for a long time. Because inherently talking to other people can be both frightening and tiresome, because you have no idea how people will react. You cannot read their minds. You do not know in which way a reaction should go. There is this inherent, oh my god, I don't know what's going on, what the hell is going to happen, say something, help me, I am so scared. The great thing about TTRPGs, role-playing games, is they have that same social structure, only mechanized. There are rules to how you get around with each other. There are rules to how to be social, which makes the social part of it so much easier for a lot of people to understand. There are these things you can do, and these are the boundaries to how far you can go.
Yep.
And that can help someone start getting more social and start getting them over that things such as social anxiety, because they can, at least on a ground level, learn better how to interact with other personalities around them.
Yep. Okay. So we've got about 20 minutes left. I wanted to take a moment. I was going to do it in the middle of the podcast, but so while we were at the convention, I picked up a book, and it's called Lullabies for Dungeon Crawlers. and I'm gonna go through a few of these just because I want to share them. And
hey, Evan, can I ask you one question? Because I was trying to remember the name. You know the two short book RPGs that we got. What was the one with the two samurai that you got?
It's called A Single Moment.
Okay.
So we let's see how to.
You don't have to go into that. I'm gonna look for it right now, and I want to put it up in there because I just thought that was an amazing, going and talking to those gentlemen at the booth and finding out that there are these games, a complete little RPG in a pamphlet that was $5 or $10, and that you can play it over and over and over again, between yourself and one other player without a GM. I thought was fabulous. So yeah. Just as a starter, I just wanted to put it into the chat. So you go ahead and read the Dungeon Crawlers. I'll look this up.
Anyway, so
bring me those lullabies.
Yeah. So some of them started. He says they were an attempt to be funny, and then they became more serious as it went on. But let's see. The one that I started that made me laugh was talking about kind of like you know how you've done campaigns where, or I guess not even just campaigns, role playing games where things aren't explained. So this one's like, what are you? The fighter asked. I'm a farmer. The fighter turned to the wizard. Have you heard of that before? Not ever, the wizard said. I grow food people eat, the farmer said. That's my class. I didn't know rations grew, the fighter said. The wizard shook his head. I thought they made rations in the adventuring store. They both looked at the cleric. You got me. I summoned food from my god. It's okay, we're the good guys. If we're good guys, why do we...
game.
So, it's okay, we're the good guys. If we're the good guys, why do we keep trespassing, stealing, murdering? Because they're monsters. What are we? We're the heroes. And that gives you an all pass.
Oh. That actually makes me hurt.
Do we quickly want to take a look at... Yeah. Quickly want to take a look at Cage's question?
Let's see. Where is it?
What are your thoughts on role-playing games combined with streaming?
I haven't done it, but I think I mean, I watched Roll D20 or Roll 20, Critical Role.
Well, Zeyv is here on this show because I've watched him doing it on stream and love it. So that's why we invited Zeyv.
So that was a solo role play, though.
Well, still, I mean,
that wasn't with other people's. Well, yes, I have thoughts. That is entirely true. I have generally the main thing with, at least in my mind, with trying to stream role-playing games is that it's hard to find both the GM and the players that you need to make it a success. Next to there being a large production value, because to make a show viable, you need to make sure that everybody has a good audio quality. If you use cameras, everybody needs to have at least a C920 camera that gives a proper 1080p output. Then you need to look at if Skype is going to do the thing for you, because Skype can bork out a lot of the times. Or if you want to buy a different programs with other people, then you need to look at, are you going to pay basically the talent that is there with you that is playing the game as well. So there's a lot of things to look into to making this a proper show. Now, that is the point, though. That is if you want to make it a proper show. If this is literally just your homebrew campaign that you want to share with some friends on the other side of the world, put it on there. If that's what it is, nobody cares if what you do is without cameras and if it's just you showing without an overlay your Roll20 map and just everybody talking on there. It's just for your friends anyway. If you want to make a show out of it, like Critical Role does, like Roleplay does, like Unearthed God, what was it? I forgot the name. Dice Camera Action, Misclicks, the Penny Arcade game. We can keep on going. Then there are a lot of things to keep in mind. If you want to make a good show, you need to have a good production value. Without good production value, people are going to get turned off, no matter how great of a storyteller you are.
Yep, I agree. Okay. Yeah,
I agree too. Just so that everyone knows that we're united on this. So,
anyway, so I have 3 more of these, and then a few closing remarks. But the wizard told us it was a ring of invisibility. Being the rogue, I bullied, begged, and bartered to get it. I slid the ring onto my finger, and it turned invisible.
Wait, what?
He said, the wizard told us it was a ring of invisibility. Being the rogue, I bullied, begged, and bartered to get it. I then slid the ring onto my finger, and it turned in.
Okay, yeah, I get it.
And I did that. I drained my group's resources for them bartering for this ring of invisibility, and they're like, we rolled a magic check. It is a ring of invisibility, right? Yes. They're like, hey, now we buy it. And I was like, all right. And you slip it on your finger, and it turns invisible. Anyway.
I am going to call for a profanity filter right now. If there is still anyone watching that is below adult age, whatever that age would be in your country, close your ears, for I have a great website that I'd like to share with everyone.
Oh no. Okay.
So there's this thing that is called "Who the fuck is my D&D character?"
I love that.
It is, the URL is literally whothefuckismydndcharacter.com.
Yep.
And I will just read you what is in front of my face right now. Check this shit out. I'm going to be a fucking apathetic tiefling ranger from Never Slept, who is getting too old for all of this. And then there's a button underneath it that says, that sounds fucking terrible, and it will randomly regenerate a new one for you. And it will keep on doing that to almost infinity. If you ever need a character, you don't know what you want to play, then I'm going to roll the stats for a fucking selfish tiefling monk from the city of slums who names every piece of their gear. Done.
I use
link that, Zeyv, link that. Link that in chat. Link that in chat. I want to go to it.
I used that to create NPCs for a while. It was so much fun. So because while the profanity filter's going, I'm gonna continue that. So the last one I wanted to read that made me laugh was imagine being a kobold, a self-aware kobold. You know you're from the weakest species in the dungeon, But being self-aware, you give zero shits, less fucks about this stupid game. Self-awareness also gave you tactics. Some adventurers are going to die. Anyway, I enjoyed it. So the sunrise, it is family friendly, except for that brief moment where we said turn on the filter. Now we'll
Yes.
we'll go ahead and say that it's back to family.
I'm the only family friendly individual in the room, so whatever.
You're in a room by yourself.
I am very friendly to families, okay?
Jerk, I almost choked on my coffee.
Anyway, as far as closing, because we're about out of time.
No, wait. You have to read one more. You have to read the one that almost made me swerve off the road because I laughed so. The first one that you opened it up about the mother and the... Oh my goodness. Okay. We're pulling out of the parking lot from the convention, and Evan starts reading this to me. I'm laughing so hard. I'm trying desperately not to swerve the car and hit pedestrians. I was tearing up. I thought this was great.
Hitting pedestrians? Well, now that is not family friendly.
No, that's called a video game.
That is family murder.
That's a video game. Yeah. No, I just...
Well, so I feel like you have to be very much well versed in Dungeons and Dragons to appreciate it. But then I guess here goes. Mom was an orc shaman. Dad was a human sorcerer. Both fought at the Battle of Darklord's demise. Both decided it would have been awesome to have the other fighting for the other side. Their hookup on the battlefield is the stuff of bardic legend. So that's something I hear about all the time. 9 months after the battle, Mom pushed me out. I was too human. Dad thought I wasn't human enough, and the custody battles began, back and forth, back and forth. As soon as I could pick up a sword and axe, I went adventuring, never looking back. Adventures accept you no matter what you look like, as long as you don't stand in the fire and can help make monsters dead faster. Funny, ever since I helped defeat the necromancer, Wailing Wraith Keep, both humans and orcs keep asking me to help take care of their problems.
I'm sorry. So I was sorry because I have to explain why I was laughing so hard when you were reading that the first time. Because you're saying the custody battles, and all that's going through my mind is, no, I'll pay money, but you take him. No, you take him.
Yep, that's. Anyway, I had to ask him about that, and the purpose for that, though, he said, is kind of like what Zeyv talked about, having a safe space to play Dungeons and Dragons. Is that he goes, it doesn't matter if you're a half breed, as long as you can make things dead faster.
I'm sorry. What mortal in this world is not a half breed? At least.
I mean, to start a tangent for chat to talk about when this is all over, be that both the chat in here, the chat on Patreon later on when it's posted there. Isn't that exactly what you need to do in Pathfinder anyway and D&D? Isn't that the only thing that you're allowed to do according to how the progression system of the game works? Isn't that whole game not just about stabbing stuff until it's dead, taking their money so you can buy better gear so you can stab other stuff until it's dead? Enjoy.
It's exactly what it is.
I have posted my quandary to you, chat.
Anyway, as far as closing remarks, is there anything you want to say, Zeyv, as far as role playing before we close? Anything at all?
Please go play already. We need more GMs so they can finally play more games instead of having to run them.
I wanted to know if the chat had any questions. I don't know if you gentlemen have to run off. But you have a
thing that starts at 7, so I have a few more minutes.
I was gonna say we can close down the podcast formally, but I'd be more than happy to stay and answer some questions if anyone has any questions here. So, because we didn't really go into that with the questions of the chat. So all you got to do, guys, is just type in all caps question and then add your question after that word, and we'd be happy to answer that.
Silly asked the first question in a way. You need to teach me how to play if you want me to play. Here's how you play role-playing games. You shout what you want, and then we'll see if it happens or not. There you go. You now know how to play any role-playing game. You shout what you want to do, and then we'll work from there. You don't need anything more. It's true, though.
A patient GM would help.
No, you're a good player if you learn the rules. Just to
True.
play, all you need
oh my
is to
goodness,
shout
that's
what you want to
so
do.
true. If you're,
all you need to do is to shout what you want to do.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
But you are a good player if you know the rules.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
know the confines that the GM is working within. If he has specific, or she has specific rules that she likes to go, make sure you know what they are. Because there really are things that annoy the crap out of GMs. Really. So find out what those things are. Okay, question. Don't know if you already answered this, but what do you think about giving the party hirelings or NPC help?
I recently got a lot of experience from that. I don't know if you guys have something you want to bring up.
I don't tend to let them like. I mean, if the adventure's too hard, you throw an NPC in to help. But if the player gets a good charisma roll in convincing an NPC to tag along, that's okay, I guess.
Oh, I guess I misunderstood the question, because I'm thinking, why would I help the party hireling or an NPC? They're there to totally misunderstood, mister.
The way I see it generally is they can be used to indeed help make some of these especially early on encounters when everybody's still very squishy, can make it easier. If you have a hireling or an NPC help, always use loyalty in whatever way you want to do it, but always use a loyalty system to figure out how to feel about the party, because that's important. And always have an out for them, because at some point, especially more powerful NPCs, you don't want them doing basically the job of the PCs. So always find a way how you can whisk that person away at a moment's notice. You could have them be very frail and sickly, but very powerful at the same time, so that when they need their help the most, suddenly they fall ill, and now there's a new quest trying to heal that person or whatever.
Very good advice. Very good advice. All right, let's see. What's your guys' favorite system? As for me, I don't have one at the moment. Up to this point, it's been villains and vigilantes, but I have to be honest, I saw so many variations in the last week that I'm looking at new things right now, and frankly, I think that I want to create my favorite one. As egotistic as that may sound, but Evan and I have been talking about making our own RPG game based on Wanted Hero, and frankly, I want to take my favorite things from each of the games that I'm used to playing, at least the concepts, and not necessarily mechanically how they work, but the experiences that I have with them, and to develop one based on my world. So that's actually my plan, Cage. What about you guys?
I think as far as my favorite goes, like I have to say that I've really only played homebrews, and out of those, I've rarely been a player. I've been a GM for 15 years, so So for me to say, the only one I've played is my own.
And they're so good, long. By the way, they're really good.
So I don't really have. So I can't say that I have a favorite, because I don't have a lot of experience outside my own homebrews. Okay. And I spend a crap ton of time on my homebrews. But I don't really have a favorite. So
how about you, Zeyv?
For me, it would be a tie between the Burning Wheel and Fate. Fate for being so applicable to everything, and being so open for everything, and being quick and easy to understand, and the Burning Wheel for being a designed masterpiece, basically.
Very cool.
I'm gonna have to try out Fate.
Yeah, you and I will have to talk later today, Evan. I've been looking at it too, so that sounds really fun.
And And for everyone, when I say fate, I mean fate accelerated. I just constantly say fate. I'm a bad person. I know it. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I read the difference.
I
That
see what you meant.
the fate accelerated it's the simplicity and the vast application that they created for everything. So it's like the version 3 or version 4 of Fate, and it's not simplified. It's clarified. Is by what I'm reading, it doesn't make it any less of a dynamic system. It's just very, very easy to understand and use. Would that be a correct statement?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So and then to Melody's question, how might you handle your extended campaign if you end up with an unruly player that you have to cut out, or a player who suddenly can't play anymore and quits?
So if you don't mind, I will. If you don't mind, I will answer this one first, since I need to run soon.
Okay.
Melody, what I would basically say is, first up, have a talk with them. Why are they unruly? Maybe they're just going through a bad part in their life and they need an out, and this could literally just be it. They want to just smash stuff because they feel bad. If that's not the case, they are being unruly because they like being disruptive, or they don't like where the campaign is going. See where concessions can be made. If what they want is completely opposed to what you or the party wants, then they'll just have to be cut out, and that's never nice, but will have to be done. And you can literally have a small thing in between that says, "Oh, they got snatched away and they need to run away." Or you can literally just say, "We as players choose to ignore this part of our campaign now, and we are just going to act as if it never happened and move on." Those are things you can talk about with the rest of the group, what they would prefer in this case, since some of them might need that narrative reason why they're gone. Then you might have to sit down a little bit and fix that, but otherwise...
I completely agree with Dev. I can tell you what happened recently. We had an individual move away, and they weren't really interested in playing anymore. They've been playing for about a year, and they're about done. And the group, in trying to decide what do we do, they said, okay, well, tonight, then they used him as dragon bait to further the campaign.
Basically,
we'll drink to his name, but we're going to feed his arms and legs to the dragon. So
that's awesome.
That's how that works.
That's awesome.
They're like, goodbye, see you later. Thanks for the meal.
Well, I want to thank you all for having me on. It has been great fun. I need to run now.
Thank you, Zev. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. We'll do this again.
Yeah.
Awesome.
If anyone in the chat still has questions, feel free to ever hit me up on Discord. I'm both in Jamie's channel and my own channel. Should probably not be that hard to find. Or hit me up sometime when I'm streaming.
Yep.
And ask me questions. I'm always up for a great conversation. So.
Thank you, sir. Round of applause in here. Thank you so much for.
Thank you. I hope to see you sometime soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ev. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
All right, guys. So I'm gonna finish up these questions, Evan, and.
Yeah. So, question: what do you think about Deus Ex Machina saving the party?
What does that mean? Oh, or would you say, well, you effed up, you die?
So, assuming that that you mean like saving the group by extraordinary means or things like that. If the group messes up and they're gonna die, they messed up and they're gonna die. More or less, if they're in a situation that's bad where they need some attention, then they're gonna die. So I'm really big on that because I feel like you need to make conscious decisions, and so if you consistently make bad decisions that make you end up in that position, then you're going to pay for it. I think if it's on the GM side that you're putting them against something that they weren't prepared for or they weren't able to handle, then you give them, you give them some of that saving roles and you kind of help them out.
Yeah. Is it your fault or is it their fault?
Yeah. If they decided to get themselves into that position, then they did that. But if you're putting that on them, then I think that you kind of try to avoid that.
Okay.
And if you do, you help them.
Then we got Silly says, question, how do you find a group of people who are willing to stand the noobness of new people? I think a lot of role-playing players are like, stop ruining it. Yeah.
I have never met a group that didn't like new players and having new players.
But I
Sorry,
don't think that's. Oh, we're getting feedback here. Can you? I almost don't want to say anything because it's having that loop there. The thing is it's not just having new characters; it's the inexperience. So I agree. I've never been in a group that didn't want to have a new player. It's whether or not they understand the process. They understand how to make decisions, their turns, things like that.
I think that it's so simple in nature that you could be like, I'm complete, and 15 minutes into the game, you're good to go. Like Zeyv said, I mean, on a completely legitimate note, shout out what you want to do is, for the most part, all you need to play. Because, the GM he'll describe the situation, he'll describe the scenario to you guys, and then he'll basically say, okay, what do you want to do now?
Yeah.
And you can be like, okay, I'd like to do this. And he goes, okay, well, roll this. And then you do that. So as far as being new in the game, there's not a stiff learning curve, and there's not a, it's not like playing League of Legends. You've got these ratings that like you need to keep up with. Generally speaking, everyone has relatively close to the same chances. It's just I think the biggest thing is being involved. Just make sure that you're involved. Don't sit there silently without saying or participating. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I can't do that feedback. I don't know if you have earplugs on or what, but the thing that I like about new players though is I guess it depends on whether or not if they're eager and this is something that they really want to experience. I love it because I like bringing someone in and being able to walk them through, because I like converting people to these things and showing them options and the things that they're able to do. When you understand the process of the gameplay and you can sit there next to a new person and they say, well, I'm not sure what I can do. And, say, well, all right, well, let's look at your class. Let's look at your abilities. Let's look at your weaponry or your magic or, whatever it is that you have, and say, have you ever thought about this? Have you thought about that? Look, you have an opening right here. You can, I can help you with this or that. And I don't know, I guess, in gameplay, kind of put your arm around somebody and say, look, I can show you how to do this, or I'll help you do this. That makes gameplay really exciting, and usually that will hook someone really well. And I like those experiences. Those are a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I think it's exactly what Cage, it's converting. One of us. Yep. Everyone, the thing with role players is that everyone wants you to join them. If you find someone that role plays, they want you to join.
Yes.
Even if they don't want you to join a particular group, they want you to join the hobby. So, I think last question from Cage: what is your most awesome
role-playing moment?
Rolling natural hundreds is always a big thing.
I know what mine was, and it was during one of your games.
Okay, go for it.
It was a time when what's his name and I don't remember the name because it was so long ago, but the individual that was trying to take over the town, and remember someone had fatally struck him, and he was calling upon his god to regenerate so that he didn't die. And I jumped, and he was so overpowered, and I rolled that perfect roll. It was the only slim chance, and drove those two daggers into his chest to take care of one of our worst enemies. And we actually, all of us were standing in the room saying, wait, we won? And you were even sitting there in the chair going, what the crap just happened? You all should not have done that. We did how many natural D100 rolls did we get? There was like 6 of them that night. It was crazy.
Yeah, quite a few.
And so we're taking out these vastly. So I mean, we were supposed to be enslaved and all sorts of stuff, and it went horribly wrong in their, or in our favor. And I loved that. And we literally afterwards, we're all sitting there going, "Okay, that was the coolest a session we've ever played. We're not only are we alive, we just changed the course of this whole story. Oh heck yeah!" Of course, the next week, I don't think anyone could have rolled a saving roll. It just everything went wrong.
So as far as mine, to answer your question, I don't have one because I've been the GM so often. I kind of live vicariously through everyone else. Everyone else's roles. So yeah. If it's been a good game, they're enjoy themselves and everyone feels good afterwards, then that's great. So as far as the last question that Muffin Cocker just put, do you do a lot of politics in your games, or do you make more games? So that's something that Zeyv talked about talking with your group about it. I personally prefer very high political influences in games because I like this.
One of our characters is running for mayor.
Yeah, exactly. One of the characters in the role-playing group. I prefer the puzzle side of it and the political and relationship side over straight combat. I like combat. I like purposeful combat, but I'm not a big fan of consistent combat all the time. I prefer a really good story that has a lot of that. When you come to combat, there's a purpose behind it. There's a reason. There's a, you've kind of built up to it almost. So anyway.
And that's about it. And hey, Bex, thanks for showing up. And we're just closing down the stream.
But you'll be here tomorrow.
That's right. Bex? That's right. Bex will be here as our guest. So thank you all for being here. And those of you who are our patrons, thank you so much for your support. And we look forward to bringing you another show tomorrow. And also our weekly unedited audio podcasts, which are exclusive to our Patreon page. And so, wow. Yep, sorry. Well, hi and bye, guys. We sure appreciate you guys showing up. And make sure that you guys watch the replay on this. It was a really good session with Zeyv and Evan and I. So,
all right. Well, you guys have a good day. Happy talking with you.
And we will talk to you soon.